When humanity's newest academy cadet treats a deadly apex predator like a pet, the galaxy's military elite are forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humans aren't just fearless, they're clinically insane. Lieutenant Commander Vrix'tal of the Galactic Defense Coalition watches in horror as Sarah Chen transforms a routine survival drill into chaos by befriending the very creature designed to kill her. What begins as a diplomatic nightmare spirals into a revelation about Earth's most terrifying export, their absolute refusal to recognize danger. Through the eyes of an increasingly disturbed alien officer, witness how one human's reckless compassion might just rewrite the rules of interstellar warfare or get everyone killed trying. Lieutenant Commander Vrix'tal had seen many things during his 30 cycles of service in the Galactic Defense Coalition. He had witnessed solar storms tear apart battle cruisers. He had negotiated treaties with species that communicated through bioluminescent flatulence. He had even survived a dinner party hosted by the Krell, whose idea of hospitality involved live prey. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for humans. "Explain to me again," Vrix'tal said, his 4 eye stalks swiveling independently to focus on the human coordinator, "why you believe this is appropriate training." Coordinator Hayes, a middle-aged human female with the unsettling habit of maintaining direct eye contact, smiled. That expression, that baring of teeth that humans insisted was friendly, but looked exactly like a threat display. "It's a standard survival exercise, Commander. The cadets need to demonstrate resourcefulness under pressure." Under pressure. Vrix'tal's translator implant struggled to convey his disbelief. "You have released a Vorgash Render into the training habitat, a creature that has a documented success rate of 97% lethality against armed soldiers. Your cadets are unarmed." 98%. Actually, Hayes corrected cheerfully. The statistics were updated last quarter. Vrix'tal felt his respiratory spiracles constrict. 3 months. 3 months since humanity had been admitted into the coalition, and already he was developing what the medical officer called stress-induced chromatophore dysfunction. His skin kept turning colors it had no business turning. The observation deck overlooked the training habitat, a carefully engineered environment spanning 50 square kilometers of varied terrain, forest, mountains, swampland. Currently, 15 cadets from various coalition species were scattered throughout, each trying to survive until extraction. The humans had insisted on sending 5 of their own cadets, against Vrix'tal's explicit recommendations. "Cadet positions?" he asked, pulling up the holographic display. "The Krellix twins are fortifying a cave system in Sector 7, reported Ensign Thrall, a young Dorovan, who had recently been assigned as Vrix'tal's aide. "Smart move. The render hunts by thermal signature. Caves will mask them." "Cadet Vex has climbed approximately 40 meters into the canopy," another officer added. "Excellent vertical thinking." "And the humans?" Vrix'tal already regretted asking. Thrall's facial plates shifted, the Dorovan equivalent of a grimace. 2 are attempting to craft spears. One is, I believe the term is napping near a stream. Another is singing. Singing. "Something about wheels on a bus, sir." The translation matrix is very confused. Vrix'tal was about to respond when every alarm in the observation deck began screaming. The holographic display flashed red. "Render signature detected," someone shouted. "Sector 12. Multiple cadet signatures in proximity." The main view screen shifted, showing a clearing where 3 cadets had converged. A Krellix, a Tiverian, and Sarah Chen. The human. Vrix'tal knew her file by heart. 20 standard years old. Top marks in tactics and xenobiology. Grew up on a death world, Earth, where literally everything was trying to kill you, including the weather, the plants, and occasionally the water itself. Psychological evaluation flagged her as, quote, enthusiastically optimistic to a potentially concerning degree. The render emerged from the tree line. Sweet merciful void. 4 meters of corded muscle, razor-sharp dorsal plates running along its spine, 6 legs ending in claws that could shred reinforced hull plating. A head that was mostly teeth, Evolution had spent millions of years perfecting this creature for one purpose: murder. The Krellix cadet immediately dropped into a defensive posture, energy barrier shimmering to life from their forearm gauntlet. Wait, they were not supposed to have equipment. Did they smuggle tech into the habitat? Vrix'tal demanded. The Krellix family has significant political influence, Hayes said diplomatically. Some cadets have resources, others don't. Which meant, yes, they cheated, and we are pretending not to notice. The Tyverian cadet was already running, their 6 legs carrying them toward the nearest water source. Sensible. Renders hated deep water. Sarah Chen did not run. She stood there, barely reaching the Render's shoulder height, wearing the standard issue training suit that would provide exactly 0 protection against what was about to happen. Her dark hair was pulled back in what humans called a ponytail. Her face showed no fear. Actually, that was incorrect. Her face showed excitement. "Oh no," Vrix'tal whispered. "Oh no, no, no." The Render charged. Standard protocol: the creature would close distance in approximately 4 seconds, use its weight to knock prey off balance, then employ its primary jaw to deliver a killing bite to the cranial region. Vrix'tal had watched the training footage. It was horrifyingly efficient. Sarah Chen dropped into a crouch. "She's taking a defensive stance," Thrall said hopefully. "Perhaps she has combat training we were not aware of." But that was not a combat stance. Sarah spread her arms wide. No, surely not. The Render was 3 seconds away. 2 seconds. Its claws tore up earth. Its breathing was audible even through the audio pickups, a sound like gravel in a fusion reactor. 1 second. Sarah Chen, human cadet of Earth, threw her head back and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Come here, baby monster." The observation deck went silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems. The Render, 2 tons of apex predator, slowed, its massive head tilted. The gesture looked almost confused. "What is she doing?" someone whispered. "I believe," Hayes said. And Vrix'tal noticed that even the coordinator's voice had lost some of its confidence. "She is attempting to befriend it." "Befriend it?" Vrix'tal's translator probably added several exclamation points that were not necessary, but he stood by the emotion. "It is an apex predator. It has a brain the size of a fruit. It cannot be befriended." The Render had stopped completely now, about 3 meters from Sarah. It lowered its head, sniffing. Sarah remained in her crouch, arms still spread, making soft cooing sounds. "Who's a good destroyer of worlds?" she said, her voice carrying clearly over the audio feed. "Who's a perfect killing machine?" "You are. Yes, you are." The Render's tail, a club of bone and cartilage that could pulverize rocks, began to move. Back and forth. Back and forth. "Is it?" Thrall's voice cracked. "Is it wagging?" "Impossible," Vrix'tal said flatly. "The Vorgash Render does not have a tail-wagging reflex. They are not pack animals. They do not bond. They are solitary hunters that occasionally eat their own offspring." The Render took a step closer. Sarah remained perfectly still except for her hands, which she slowly lowered. "That's it, baby," she murmured. "Good baby. Such a good baby." "She is treating a Vorgash Render," Vrix'tal said slowly, "like a Terran domesticated canine." "It's working though," Thrall offered weakly. The Render's head was now close enough that Sarah could touch it, which of course she did. She reached out and placed both hands on the creature's snout, right between the rows of teeth that could bite her in half. "Administrator Hayes," Vrix'tal said, his voice very calm, which was how you knew he was absolutely not calm. "I am going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer truthfully. What substances are humans given before they are deployed to Coalition facilities?" "I'm sorry? What drugs? What medications? What neurological modifications? Because there is clearly something interfering with this cadet's survival instincts." Hayes actually laughed. "Oh, Commander. That is survival instinct. Humans have survived on Earth for millennia by befriending things that could kill them. We call it domestication." The render had fully relaxed now. Sarah was scratching behind some kind of auditory ridge, and the creature's eyes, all 6 of them, were half closed in what could only be described as contentment. A thought occurred to Vrix'tal. A horrible thought. "How long," he asked quietly, "have humans been members of the Coalition?" 3 months. "And how many training exercises have we conducted involving hostile fauna?" "This is the 7th. "And how many times have human cadets attempted to befriend the hostile fauna?" Hayes checked her datapad. 7 out of 7, Commander. Vrix'tal sat down. His anatomy was not designed for sitting in human-style chairs, but he needed to do something before his circulatory system failed entirely. On the screen, Sarah had somehow convinced the render to roll over. It was lying on its back, all 6 legs in the air, while she rubbed its armored belly. "I want a full psychological evaluation of every human cadet," Vrix'tal said, "and I want it yesterday." "They will all pass, Commander. This is normal human behavior." "That is the problem." Part 2. The emergency council meeting was called approximately 47 minutes after Sarah Chen successfully convinced the Vorgash Render to play fetch. Vrix'tal stood before the assembled representatives of 12 coalition species, his skin cycling through colors that had not appeared in his genetic lineage for 6 generations. The holographic recording played on repeat behind him. Sarah, laughing, throwing a log. The render, bounding after it like an oversized, heavily armored puppy. Sarah, somehow teaching it to sit. "This," announced Council Speaker Torthal, a Bravaxian, whose 3 heads allowed for truly spectacular expressions of disapproval, "is unprecedented." "Unprecedented?" Vrix'tal's voice climbed several octaves. "Speaker, that human violated every known principle of xenobiology, ignored 60,000 years of documented render behavior, and somehow turned a killing machine into a companion animal in under 12 minutes. Technically 11 minutes and 43 seconds. Coordinator Hayes interjected helpfully from her position at the witness podium. "New record, actually. Previous was 14 minutes with a Carvaxian spine wolf." The council chamber erupted. Delegates began shouting in 17 different languages. The Krellix ambassador fainted. Someone from the back yelled something about reviewing humanity's admission status. Vrix'tal let them argue. His eye stalks tracked the continued feed from the training habitat, where Sarah had now been joined by the other 4 human cadets. They had all converged on the render's location. This would be fine. They would see the danger help extract Sarah, and this nightmare would end. Except, "Oh sweet burning stars," Vrix'tal whispered. "They are all doing it." One human, a tall male with bright orange hair that humans called red, despite the obvious color discrepancy, was examining the render's teeth. "Mate, you've got something stuck in your back molars. Hold still." Another, shorter and stockier, was inspecting the dorsal plates. "These could use conditioning. Anyone got moisturizer?" "I have sunscreen," offered a third, a female with dark skin and intricate braided hair. "Same basic principle, yeah." The 4th human, whose file identified him as Phoenix Kane, was taking pictures. "The folks back home are never going to believe this. Smile, murder puppy." The render, destroyer of armies, terror of frontier colonies, was now lying contentedly while 5 humans fussed over it like grooming staff. "I request," said Ambassador Krellix, having been revived with smelling salts, "that we immediately terminate the human trial period. They are clearly defective." "Defective?" Hayes's expression shifted. No more smiling. Her eyes went cold in a way that made Vrix'tal's survival instinct scream. "Ambassador, my people have survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, pandemics and ourselves. We did not claw our way to the top of our food chain by being defective." "Then how do you explain this?" The ambassador gestured wildly at the screen, where Sarah was now braiding flowers into the render's dorsal plates. Hayes stood. "We explain it by understanding something fundamental about humans. We do not see threats. We see potential friends who just have not realized it yet." "That is insane." "Yes," Hayes agreed cheerfully. By most species standards, absolutely. But it works. Earth has thousands of domesticated species. Animals that started as predators or pests. We befriended wolves and got dogs. We befriended wildcats and got cats, who still barely tolerate us, but we love them anyway. We convinced prey animals to trust us for mutual benefit. We even have people who keep spiders as pets. Spiders, multiple delegates shouted simultaneously. Oh yes, 8-legged venomous predators. Some people think they are adorable. Name them things like Fluffy. Vrix'tal needed to sit down again. But why? What evolutionary advantage does this provide? Hayes turned to him, and for a moment he saw past the coordinator facade to something deeper, something that reminded him why Earth, this tiny death world in an unremarkable star system, had been invited to join the coalition despite barely achieving faster-than-light travel. Because, Commander, making friends is more efficient than making enemies. Every species we domesticated made us stronger. Dogs helped us hunt. Cats protected our grain stores. Horses gave us mobility. We turned threats into assets. The render cannot be domesticated, Vrix'tal insisted. It has been tried. The Carvaxians spent 2 centuries attempting it. Thousands died. They concluded it was biologically impossible. The Carvaxians, Hayes said gently, did not grow up with golden retrievers. On screen, the situation had somehow deteriorated further, or improved. Vrix'tal's assessment metrics were completely failing him at this point. The napping human from earlier had woken up and joined the group. He had produced, from absolutely nowhere that Vrix'tal could determine, a ball, a simple rubber sphere. He threw it. The render chased it, brought it back, dropped it at his feet. Good monster, best monster, who's a perfect apex predator, you are. The singing human arrived next, still singing that incomprehensible song about buses. The render's tail was now in constant motion, a blur of excitement. I submit a proposal, said Ambassador Torthal slowly. All 3 heads focused on Hayes with unsettling synchronization. A test. If humans truly have this ability, let us see how far it extends. What did you have in mind? Hayes's voice was cautious now. The Federation outposts along the Krellix frontier have been under siege for 8 months. The Krellix swarm are not animals. They are sentient, hostile, and have rejected every diplomatic overture. 13 species have tried. All failed. If humans can befriend a Vorgash Render, perhaps they can succeed where we could not. The chamber went quiet. Vrix'tal felt something shift. This was no longer about one cadet and one training exercise. This was about humanity's place in the galaxy, their value, their survival. Hayes met the ambassador's gaze. You are asking us to attempt first contact with an actively hostile species. I am asking if humans are as special as they claim, or if Cadet Chen simply got lucky. Below in the habitat, Sarah had somehow convinced the render to let her ride on its back. She was whooping with joy as it ran in circles, the other cadets cheering. Hayes smiled again, the dangerous smile. Ambassador, luck has nothing to do with it. We will take your test. But understand something first. She activated her own holographic display. Images flashed. Wolves, cats, horses, falcons, elephants, dolphins, an entire planetary ecosystem's worth of animals that had started as threats or strangers and became humanity's companions. Every one of these species was told to be impossible to domesticate. Too wild, too dangerous, too proud, too different. We did it anyway. Not through force, not through cruelty, through patience, respect, and the fundamental human belief that maybe, just maybe, that scary thing over there wants a friend too. And if you are wrong, Torthal asked, if the Krellix kill your people, then we die doing what humans do best. Hayes's expression softened. Trying anyway. The vote was called. Debate raged for another hour. But eventually consensus emerged. Humanity would be given their test. A diplomatic mission to the Krellix frontier, led by cadets who had just proven they could befriend the unfriendable. Vrix'tal found Hayes in the corridor afterward. This is madness. You know that, yes? Completely, she agreed. The Krellix have destroyed 17 contact vessels. They do not negotiate. They do not communicate beyond threats. They certainly do not befriend. Probably not, Hayes conceded. But here is something about humans that your files might not mention, Commander. We are very good at falling down. We are even better at getting back up. And we are absolutely the best at convincing things that want to kill us to give friendship a chance instead. Why? Vrix'tal asked. Not as a commander. As someone genuinely trying to understand, why do you keep trying? Hayes looked back toward the observation deck, where Sarah Chen was now teaching the render to high five. Because, Commander, the universe is a big, scary place, and we figure it is a lot less scary with friends. That is illogical. Yep. It will probably fail. Maybe. You could all die. Possibly. Hayes turned to leave, then paused. But consider this. 3 months ago, every species in the coalition said humans could not befriend a Vorgash Render, said it was impossible, against nature. Biological fact. She gestured toward the screen. We do not believe in impossible, Commander. We believe in improbable, and improbable just means nobody has tried the right way yet. She walked away, leaving Vrix'tal alone with his thoughts and his increasingly malfunctioning chromatophores. On screen, Sarah Chen was having a deep conversation with the render, explaining something about proper nutrition and the importance of vegetables. The creature was listening with apparent fascination, its 6 eyes fixed on her face. Vrix'tal pulled up the mission brief for the Krellix frontier. Read through the casualty reports, the failed negotiations, the warnings. Then he opened a new file and began typing his recommendation. Approve human diplomatic mission to Krellix frontier. They will either revolutionize interspecies relations or get themselves spectacularly killed. Either way, I suspect we will learn something important about the nature of friendship, fear, and the peculiar species called humanity. He paused, then added one final note. Personal observation. I have begun to suspect that Earth's most dangerous export is not their technology, their weapons, or even their cuisine, which I am told can be quite lethal. It is their absolutely unshakable belief that everything deserves a chance to be loved, even monsters, especially monsters. The galaxy is not ready for this. Below, Sarah Chen was singing the render to sleep, a lullaby about stars and dreams, and tomorrow. The creature, designed by evolution to be the perfect killer, closed its eyes and began to snore. Yes, Vrix'tal muttered, watching his entire worldview crumble in real time. Definitely not ready. But ready or not, humanity was here. And they were bringing friendship whether the galaxy liked it or not.